Welcome to Music Matters Podcast with Darrell Craig Harris, talking about all things music with celebrities, artists, music business insiders, and more.
Thomas Ripsam, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Darrell. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure and actually really an honor because your company is a storied company. It's obviously one of the largest legacies in guitar making and one of the oldest, if not the oldest. You have been doing a lot of innovative things, and one of them is you just did a signature model with Shawn Mendes, who's a very popular artist. We also have artists like Billy Strings and these other folks that are Martin devotees, among many others. You're president and CEO of Martin, and you've been with the company, I believe, since 2021.
Correct.
You've respected the legacy, but also have been doing a lot with innovative ideas. Let's talk about that and being with such a storied company. Give us a little bit of the history for folks that may not know.
Sure, yeah. Martin Guitar was founded in 1833. And it's a sixth-generation family-owned business. We are based in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and that has been the headquarters of the company for almost the entire time. We build acoustic guitars and also make strings. And just to give you a sense, last year we did something like 125,000 instruments. So we have a factory in Nazareth. We also have a factory in the north of Mexico, in a place called Navajo. And we make a lot of acoustic guitars. And, it's obviously a very long history, to look back to. But I think what's been the essence of what we do and how we do it is that we have a lot of passion about craftsmanship and learning the craft, and then applying the craft, the artisanship, and the love about the instrument, right? And that translates into, we are known for great tones and sounds. We are known for the aesthetics of our instruments, which I think is a big untapped opportunity in general. And the quality. Right, the quality and playability is part of that as well. So we've developed and evolved over time, but I think those ingredients, and that ultimately people are at the heart of everything we do, and we take care of people. Those are some really important ingredients of what's given us the legacy history, and we keep it going.
And generational, because I'm sure you have a lot of builders that have had a long family history with the company. And I should say too, you're actually yourself a guitar player, and recording artist, you've released music. So you come at it kind of from both ends. Has that, when you first took on this challenge, was that something that was just super exciting for you?
Oh, it was incredibly exciting. I mean, I knew about Martin and many other brands, right? But I knew about the position that Martin has in the industry and the impact, and to think that I would be, part of this journey was frankly mind-boggling and very humbling, because I'm just a small piece in this whole machine, right? An engine, and so it was just an amazing opportunity that you could have never dreamed of, right? Until it actually happened. So it's been great. And to your point about being a guitar player myself and a collector and recording, I do think that helps a lot, because I look at everything we do through the lens of a player, and it's not just the instrument, right? It's more the experience. What gives me great experiences, and as you know, with storied brands, it's a lot more than just the industry, the instrument itself, right? It's the artist connections, it's the storytelling, it's the when you open a case, you have a wow experience or not. So it's been great, and I do think my own passion for this whole thing and for what we do, it's very important.
Up until you, the company had been run by family members. So you actually are the first person in your position, which adds a little extra something, right, to taking on that responsibility.
It absolutely does. And the business is still family owned. Chris Martin IV, who had been the CEO for 35 years before I joined. He's the chairman of the board. He and the family, they own the business, primary shareholders. And he's still very involved. And I think that's a great thing because that connection, is a big part of the brand. And Chris loves to be involved. And I think we are all better for it.
And it's just great, to preserve the legacy and have that in place. And again, like that's been a bit of a challenge for you, I'm sure, because you came in, you want to do that. You want to preserve what they have because obviously it's a great brand. But then at the same time, you need to bring in innovation. You need to bring in things to kind of modernize in a careful way. And part of what you've been doing is signature models with young artists. Shawn Mendes is the newest one, the latest one.
Right.
Talk about that and how important that is to you to bring on board young musicians and then kind of keep it alive with multi-generational.
Absolutely. You're a musician. I'm sure you can point to a few artists that have inspired you. I think that has been true for a long time, right? Musicians are inspired by other musicians. And that continues today. And for us as Martin, I think we have an incredible roster when we look back in the history of artists that really helped get the company and the brand to where it is today, and the impact that we've had on Western music is a lot driven by these artists that we've worked with, and that continues today. And hence, every year we introduce a few collaborations, signature models with artists. Signature models is just one way how we collaborate. We also have a program where every year we introduce a class of artists called Showcase, and usually they are also on the younger side, but very accomplished, significant following and a certain standing already. But I think the artist collaboration is really important. We've worked together with Shawn and Shawn's team a few times and for quite a few years. And, when we think about a signature collaboration, we do obviously think about most and foremost what's important to the artist, right? And what does the artist want to accomplish through the collaboration? But we also think about what we can bring to the table. And, historically, it was maybe more a US model that we would think about. It would be one model or two models US made. Sometimes the US made instruments are more expensive. So now we love to think about also Mexico made products. And I think the Shawn Mendes 2 instruments are a good example of how we do that then, right? Because one instrument, the 0028, it's made in the US. And then we have the other instrument made in Mexico, Navajo, a little bit more affordable. And so we try to cover multiple aspects.
It's important to have entry-level instruments, but even though your entry-level instruments are high quality, it's important to kind of cover that.
Exactly.
And other companies that we're familiar with have really focused on that. Is that something that's been really important for you to be able to provide instruments that people can just start with the brand, and then oftentimes once they come into the brand, they stay with it for life, right?
Totally. I think we have our idea of what's our audience, right? When we think about players, and it covers a broad spectrum of, different ages, right? And what the players focus on genre-wise. International is a big part, right? So we don't just think about US centric artists. We think about global, international markets. So it's a few different criteria, but one thing that is for sure, we want to work with entry-level players or players that look for more affordable instruments because it could be an entry point, or it just helps you to cover needs that are absolutely out there, right? And I think there's more opportunity for us to do that. but very important consideration. And I think right now, where you have a lot of challenges in the world, the one thing that gives me a lot of inspiration, but also, worry is what is going on in the world. It's
Right.
a very challenging environment. What inspires me is that I think in those times, more people look for something that provides meaning. And I don't think there is anything better than, finding an instrument that becomes your friend or partner or whatever. And the meaning you get out of that is incredible. And so, I do think people will continue to play instruments and acoustic instruments or physical instruments because it covers an inherent human need.
It becomes part of your soul. I remember being a kid getting my Les Paul when I was in junior high school, and it was like, there's really nothing like that for people that aren't musicians. As you mentioned, opening the case, it's the full experience. It's not just the guitar, it's the case, it's the smell, it's the whole thing.
Yes.
And you're from Germany, I think.
I'm originally from Germany. Yes.
So you were talking about like affordability, and also we're going to talk about sustainability, which is also important for you.
Very important.
Affordability, it's interesting because I used to live in Tokyo, and I've been to Europe quite a bit. And a lot of people that don't realize that, maybe Americans don't realize that when you go to those countries, trying to buy American-made instruments is quite a thing because you often have VAT taxes, you have import duties.
Yes, totally.
Talk a little bit about that and how you navigate that, because obviously Martin is a premium brand, but now you're offering these other options.
Yeah. First and foremost, it's important to understand what is going on in different geographies, right? And when we talk about what's going on in Europe, obviously it's not one geography, it's country complexity. But when I think about the situation in the world, it almost feels like a patchwork of market conditions, right? And so number one, to your question, it's really important to understand what is really happening in these markets. How are consumers changing, right? Players. What are they looking for? And your point about affordability, it is very important because if you look at a place like Japan, a country like Japan, because of foreign exchange changes, right, the rate changes, instruments imported from the US have increased in price significantly, or in the cost. And so how you deal with that, the way we deal with that is we try to think about the different instruments we offer and try to provide variety, right? So really cover different price points so that ultimately people in these markets have a better chance to find something that meets their needs, but also their affordability considerations.
And those things are always changing, as we know, especially with tariffs and that kind of things. That's I know from the business part of it, that's your daily. I'm sure it's a daily concern that you wake up to, right?
It absolutely is. And I joined in the midst of COVID, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. We are dealing with this boom, right? Because there was this big question of how much and how quickly should we and can we scale up, right, production to make enough instruments available. But we also at Martin, we absolutely thought, there's an up and there's a down. And what we don't want is just to make as many products as possible. And then at some point we have to let people go because of that. And so, but that was during COVID. What I would say right now is the uncertainty and volatility that businesses in our industry are dealing with. It's really challenging. Right. And I think we're all sitting in the same boat, and there's no magic silver bullet that gets you out of it. But it's just something that, obviously consumes a lot of your time then when you run or operate these businesses, how you deal with that.
Right. And at the end of the day, for the consumers or for the lovers of the guitar, that quality is ultimate. That's always the bottom line, right?
Exactly. That is the bottom line. And I would say, in general, from that perspective, we are living in a very good time because I think the quality in general in our industry has gone up. and that ultimately is good for the consumer.
And people, as you know, save a lifetime to buy a Martin. So it's important to deliver, right?
Totally. Yeah. And we would never jeopardize that, right? That's really part of our DNA, so to speak.
It's your legacy. Talk about sustainability, because obviously these days environmental concerns are a big part of, you deal with that on a daily basis as well, because sourcing materials, sourcing woods, tone woods is an expensive endeavor, and it's a global endeavor. Talk a little bit about that part of it.
Yep. Yeah. So at Martin, when we think about sustainability, it really covers three areas, right? Our employees, the communities we are part of, and the environment. Whereas people often jump to sustainability as, oh, it's the environment. And it's part of it, but we want to be responsible in these three areas. Socially responsible company, and we have a pretty systematic way to go about it. But on the environmental side, there is no question that sourcing some of the traditional materials, woods specifically, that we have used, it gets more complicated, and it's more costly. And we also know there's a need out there. And so we obviously continue to offer a lot of our traditional materials. And when you have a D28 or a D18, you really don't want to futz around with the materials you don't want to compromise, because there's such a known positioning of those instruments, and they still, are really important for us, our standard series. But what we absolutely are doing in parallel, and company has been doing that, I think, since the 60s, actually, when, Brazilian rosewood became more regulated. I mean, it's organic how you start to evolve, but we constantly look for new materials, alternative materials,
Right.
and the best instruments to then apply these new materials is in the new models that we create. Yeah, and part of that then is, examples, our Inception maple, which relied basically on domestic woods. So I actually designed a CEO guitar, CEO 11, that had German white oak at the back and sides. And so, use of materials, clearly we're branching out, we're trying to expand what we do, and domestic, there are lots of great domestic tone woods that you can use. And then we do more traditional things that have been around for a while, like reuse or reduce, right? Things like that. But we have to do it, and we have to be responsible. And there's a lot we can do. Part of it, I think, is educating the consumers.
Yeah, because there's a lot of options out there, but we've had kind of the real traditional body materials, spruce, mahogany, as you mentioned, Brazilian rosewood, but there's actually a lot of great materials that can work very, very well, right?
Totally. It's exactly what you say, right? It's the tradition that people love to hold on to. But as we move more into the future, you will have more people that understand that, climate change is real. Some of the environmental challenges are very real.
Yep.
And I think they naturally will be more open, or at least appreciate that the way to go forward here is to be more responsible.
As a company, as a global company and a global brand, you're really leading the way for other guitar builders as well.
It's our aspiration. And, we talk a lot about at Martin, kind of the direction we're headed, and how we pick up different topics. Sustainability to us, it's not an afterthought, right? Sustainability is embedded in, we make new decisions on products, or we make new decisions on equipment, and say, is this ergonomically better for us? Is there a sustainability impact? Right? So in everything we do, sustainability is a consideration. And I think that's the right way to go, versus, having a sustainability department somewhere that's in the back office to have to fight this battle. No, we make it front and center, and I think it helps to get more impact.
And I'm sure all musical instrument builders that use woods and use those products, they're all dealing with similar issues. It's the long term. Obviously, Martin has been around for so long. They think long term, and they've had to be viable. And it's a challenging economic world we live in, of course.
Exactly.
So, who were you listening to as a young musician? Who really inspired you as a young guitar player?
It's interesting. I think my first inspiration was Elvis Presley and Scotty Moore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really what hooked me as a child to guitars, and just rock and roll was important. But then I'm a very curious person, and so I started to branch out, and actually from rock and roll it went to blues. At some point, I got into progressive music, and I'm a big progressive nerd. Genesis and Yes and King Crimson. But then from there, it also went into more electronic music, right? So to me, I listen to a lot of different music. I'm always interested in just getting inspired by new sounds or new artists, and I'm just interested in sound, and the sky is the limit to me. So there's really no genre where I say no, I don't want to listen to it or can't listen to it. So, but I have my favorites, right?
And it's important to stay curious, and then we're always learning. So if it's music, in business, whatever it is, it's important to stay open to learning. Have you found to be a successful CEO, it's important to stay open to change and be curious?
I think it's super important, especially the be curious part, because if you're not curious, or if you don't ask questions about what's there and what else is there or could there be, right? You often don't open the door to something that could be exciting. And so, yes, I do think it's important. I think as a musician and music lover, I always find it interesting when I listen to music or look at it on YouTube, and I read the comments, and people refer to a period when they were young as, oh, this was the best music ever.
Right, sure.
And then you kind of get stuck, right? And I really try to force myself to explore. And so very often, I set a goal for myself that this week I'm going to listen to 10 new bands or artists or genres that I often don't spend time on, and to just open my mind. And obviously with so much music out there, it gets harder and harder to find something that you really feel, wow, this is rocket science. I've never heard something like this, but I think there's so much amazing music out there. And when I look at the artists nowadays, people sometimes complain about what's happening, but I actually think it's really exciting what's happening, because you have more people that have the tools, and and you see it applied, and you don't need to work through all these traditional channels to get yourself heard. And so I actually think today the environment is amazing, and it's great to see a lot of different musicians and what they do, and so that excites me.
And with things like social media, especially YouTube, you have a lot of people learning how to play guitar from YouTube, right? So that aspect of it is kind of exciting for what you do, right, with the guitar company.
That is totally exciting. And, I don't think it will ever really stop, right, or truly stagnate. I mean, you have some periods, but then there's always something. There's the next thing. And I don't think it's all going to be AI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think so either. So you're obviously the president CEO of a very large, well-known guitar company. Are you still, when you meet people like Clapton, when you meet these folks, because I'm sure you do, are you still fanboy, they say, a little bit? How do you deal with that?
It's very hard not to be fanboy, especially when you meet somebody that literally has been part of your life for a long time in terms of the listening experience.
Right.
I mentioned earlier progressive music. Yes, right, was a big important band for me since my teen years. And I remember when Steve Howe visited, and we had some time to spend time together and talk. I mean, it's how can you not be starstruck? And,
Right.
and yes, you try to put your business face on, but no, I'm absolutely starstruck. And I love that, right? I don't think there's anything wrong to express to somebody how important they've been and how they impacted you and how they touched you. And it doesn't just have to be an Eric Clapton, right? I think in general, the other thing I would mention, sometimes I walk in an airport and I wear my Martin cap or, a t-shirt, and I see somebody smile at me and I think, wow, it must be my good looks. But they obviously they recognize the Martin name and they smile and it means something to them. And to me, that is a wonderful feeling when what you do really impacts people. And it could be artists like Eric Clapton, or it could be people who just play for joy, right? Or at home or whatever. I think what we do has an impact on people, and that's our aspiration.
And it's powerful, and it helps artists communicate, and that you're putting the tools of communication into their hands, which is super important. It's fun to meet people. It's also important to remember why we got into doing music, which is it's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun. Exactly. And you don't need a big production, right, to make it fun.
Just a guitar and your voice, and sometimes just a phone in front of you that gets it done.
That's it. Exactly.
Obviously, you've been very successful in what you do. What is some advice you could give to young folks that might want to do what you do, which is become a CEO, but also work with large music companies? Because it's a very unique thing, right, in the world.
Well, I think in terms of working in the music industry, I think what you'll see more and more is people work in the industry that have not grown up in the industry, right? So you see more of a mix. But I think what's really important for anybody that wants to offer something to a business or to a band or whatever it is, you really need to understand who you are and what's special about you. And I think when you spend a little bit of time on that, you can find things that you may be surprised about how special you can be, right? And that I think is actually the biggest difference maker, that you bring yourself, the whole yourself, into a situation, whether it's if you take on a CEO role or you get started in a business, right? Make sure that people know you holistically. Yes. And the other thing is, work hard, right? And be prepared to work hard, because I think people that have a certain career, usually they're not given that career. They earn the career. And part of it is persistence, hard work, patience, all that goes into it. And but anchor it in your passion for something that you really love, right? And with music, for me, when I work at Martin, I mean, lots of times it doesn't really feel like work. It feels like, I'm here, I'm meant to be here. What I do is great. And so the passion piece, I think is really important in your journey.
That's all very well said, I think. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Martin has few equals in the guitar world, and there's only a couple of companies that have even approached it. But I think what you guys do and the quality level that you've managed to maintain over the many, many years, I think speaks for itself. So thank you so much for joining me, Thomas. I know you're a very busy man, and I appreciate you taking the time and also giving us your insights. It's super valuable. And again, you have the music side of it, but you also have the professional business side, which is a great thing to share. And it's fun for people to be able to hear that.
Darrell, thank you very much. Really appreciate that I can be on your show, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great day, Thomas.
Thank you. You too, Darrell. Bye.
Thanks for joining us, and please consider subscribing to our podcast and follow us on our social media pages for guest announcements.